Licensed games often take nonsensical liberties with plot elements in order to create fun gameplay. The older the game, usually the more crazy the rendition of the property it's adapting. Star Wars on the NES is no exception. The game is mainly a platform with a couple of turret levels and top-down shooter levels thrown in for variety. Originally released for the NES, it was later ported to the Game Boy, the Game Gear and the Master System. For this video, I will be primarily sticking with the NES version. Join me as I take an adventure to a galaxy far, far away within a game from more than 30 years ago. This is Star Wars in all of its early 90s janky 8-bit glory. This retrospective look at the game will assume you've seen or at least understand the plot of the original 1977 movie, as does the game itself to some extent, having been released in 1991, 14 years after the movie was released. The game opens with a decent 8-bit rendition of the movie's opening crawl. In true vintage movie license game fashion, the intro is truncated to a couple of screens. Firstly, the iconic shot of the blockade runner being chased by the Star Destroyer looming over the top of the frame, followed by a shot of the escape pod hurtling to Tatooine. The droid sale and R2's disappearance are briefly explained in a single sentence. Then 3PO delivers a classic line from the film via more text, before the game plops us into an overhead view of the landspeeder heading for a cave. The cave itself is a nice introduction to the gameplay. Playing as Luke, you have to jump between platforms floating over a spiky floor of death, avoiding the green globs of gunk as they drip from the ceiling.
What's this?
Okay, well look, it's a game. An old, fairly basic one at that. As stated in the intro, there's going to be some artistic liberties taken with the source material. And by some, I mean a lot. At the end of the cave, next to an exit sign someone has helpfully installed in all of the caves on Tatooine, is a blaster upgrade to make Luke's pathetic blaster pistol a little bit less pathetic. And I do mean only a little bit less pathetic, as it still takes 7 or 8 shots to take down a stormtrooper with this thing. You do get the benefit of being able to fire multiple shots on a single screen though, as the default pistol only allows 1 shot rendered to the screen at a time. Upon exiting the cave, you're back in the speeder and off to explore Tatooine, the vast barren desert planet from the movie that is far from vast and barren in this game. The explorable area is a decent size for an NES game, but it's still quite small, and it's littered with things that want to kill you, including banthas that roam free, back and forth along linear paths. There are heavy gun turrets intermittently firing lasers for some reason, and floating remotes firing projectiles randomly around them. There are also stationary radar dishes that are painted the same colour as the terrain for you to crash into as well, of course dealing damage when you hit them, unlike the solid cliffs of Tatooine that just cause you to stop in your tracks without issue when you drive straight into them. The land speeder controls are not bad, but it can take a little bit of getting used to. The speeder itself has 2 speeds, a too slow to be practical normal speed, and a too fast to control for more than a couple of seconds turbo speed. It also has no way of fighting back against any of the threats on the surface of the planet, so evasion and careful driving are the priorities when moving around. The main goal at this point in the game is to explore Tatooine, gathering your allies as you go. Not that the game tells you that, of course. All I know at this point is that I need to find R2-D2 first. Except I don't, because the game allows the freedom to explore Tatooine however you see fit. I decide that I want a better weapon, so first item on my checklist for today is actually finding Obi-Wan Kenobi. The strange old hermit from the movie has nothing on 8-bit game Obi-Wan, who lives deep in a dark cave filled with human-sized mosquito creatures that constantly glide at you. After platforming through the cave, I take advantage of a secret passage that leads to 2 extra lives. Dispatch the weird, huge, aquatic-looking alien guy who fires multiple projectiles out of his chest for some reason, and they are yours. Next up in this particular cave is Obi-Wan himself, who has located himself rather unhelpfully on a ledge over a chasm of spikes that is only accessible by long jumping across several platforms whilst being chased by mosquitoes. Fortunately, the platforming in this game is actually pretty good, so this is easily achievable. Old Ben gives Luke his father's lightsaber and boots him straight out of his cave, the bastard. Unfazed, I decide to push onwards, and the next location I should visit is Obi-Wan's cave again. This time though, I'm after more extra lives. All health items, shields and extra lives are available to pick up again as soon as you re-enter an area, a mechanic that I intend to take full advantage of before leaving the planet. Go to the same place as before, grab my extra lives, and return to Obi-Wan, who again just boots me straight out because he's a knob, this time without a word.
He's kind of a strange old...
It is again time to move on though. Thus I do a handbrake turn to hit up the exciting new location of Obi-Wan's cave again. This time wielding my new lightsaber, I swing it in all of its glory and are reminded of something. I'm not very good with it. The The lightsaber is the most powerful weapon at your disposal, and Luke swings it in a very effective manner that allows you to hit enemies in an arc around you, if you time it right. My timing is terrible, and I get torpedoed by mosquitoes several times. I once again reached the big aquatic looking alien guy who was eliminated with a single swing of the saber. I grabbed my 2 extra lives again, but only gained 1 of them because I've hit the limit. You can carry up to 7 lives in this game and no more. Fortunately, 7 should be more than enough, and the game also allows you 10 continues if you lose them all. This time I deviate from my previous routine, and instead of seeing Obi-Wan, I head for the designated fire exit. Having no need now to go back to Obi-Wan's cave for a while, I find my way to a small cave with a green interior, filled with rocks that spawn giant rat-looking creatures that leap and run at you. They mostly run underneath your possible firing line, so shooting at them constantly to catch them when they arc their back up is the key to defeating these rodents. This time, at the signposted exit, is a white object with a glowing green aura that 8-year-old me thought was an onion. It is, of course, a tiny representation of the Millennium Falcon, obviously, whose shields have been scattered randomly inside the caves of Tatooine, for some reason, of course. It's never mentioned explicitly in the game, but the shields are going to be essential later, and I can collect a maximum of 8 of them. Fortunately, I've been playing this for more than 30 years. I know what's going to happen, so I grab it. The shield total is displayed on the inventory screen, with still no mention of what they are and what they're for.
What's this?
It's probably a case of read the f***ing manual, which my copy of the game doesn't have. In the top left corner of the map is the Jawa's sandcrawler. Upon driving the land speeder into it, 3PO informs me he's detected that R2-D2 is inside. I carefully platform my way through the sandcrawler, slaughtering several murderous Jawas as I navigate past crushing machinery and conveyor belts to reach the captured droid. Upon reaching R2, we're informed that he is the property of a General Kenobi who knew.
Quite frankly, sir, I don't know what he's talking about.
So, back to Obi-Wan's hermit cave then. Well, no actually. I stumble upon a cave with a purpley pink colour scheme, littered with falling rocks, dripping slime, mosquitoes, and the big guys again. This cave proves to be a hazard-filled challenge, and after encountering an unfairly placed mosquito, Luke lands on spikes, takes damage and explodes. Well, it's fine. Extra lives are easy to come by, so not a problem. I try again, mastering my way through, taking damage until I reach a big guy guarding an extra life. I skillfully saber him to oblivion and reclaim my previously lost life. As I move through, I get more health, lose it again, and encounter a new foe. The formidable Tusken Raider. These stupidly tall jumping bastards run around at you at high speed. Fortunately, they never leave the platform they're on and cannot jump over objects, so it's easy to retreat and blast them. Eventually, death finds me again, however, so I decide that the rewards of this cave are not worth the challenge. The game allows you to exit where you entered, in most cases, so this is not a problem. The next cave has a red-orange colour palette and is filled with more hyperactive Tusken Raiders who are easily dispatched due to their pathfinding limitations. There is another shield in this cave, so I grab it and run to the exit. The exit is guarded by one of the most annoying placed enemies in the game. The platform is too small to avoid him, and there is a large health pickup behind him, which is seemingly placed there because the developers knew you weren't getting past this guy without him hurting you. I decide the lightsaber is the tool for this job, and it would be if the timing of my swing had improved. It hadn't. Damn. After once again deciding that the challenge outweighed the reward, I made my way to another cave with a green interior this time. This one, however, was entirely populated by giant slugs. The slugs are too low to hit for most of their movement cycle, but just like the rats, they raise their bodies high enough for a shot to hit them for a brief moment as they crawl around. The cave is quite short, the platforming is quite easy, the enemies aren't tough, and can be easily avoided entirely. There is also a shield pickup in here. I decide that cheese is my best chance for success, and I scum my way through it 7 more times to max out the Millennium Falcon's shields. Stocked up, I move on. It so happens that this cave is right next to Mos Eisley, so I decide to pop in and see what's happening in the bustling spaceport, see what's going down, feel the vibe. The first door I encounter in Mos Eisley is the cantina. There are Rhodians strutting about the place like they just wandered out of the local disco, and a couple of indestructible purple aliens firing powerful weapons every time they turn around for some reason, so timing jumps is crucial. Getting through unscathed rewards me with a meeting with Han Solo, who bizarrely thanks Luke for saving him. I guess Luke shot first then? Han is awesome. He has his own music that plays every time you select him, and his blaster fires gigantic square blaster bolts that make an awesome loud noise when it fires. It's a hand cannon. With Han now on the team, it's time to go and get Obi-Wan. So let's do a quick recap of where we're at compared to the classic movie, in chronological order. By this point in the film, Luke's family purchased the droids peacefully from the Jawas. Luke has found R2. Obi-Wan has found and saved Luke. Obi-Wan gives Luke his father's lightsaber. Princess Leia's message to Obi-Wan has been played back. Obi-Wan asks Luke to join him. Luke says no, he can't leave his family behind. Luke finds his char-grilled in-laws and decides, fuck it, let's go. The gang go to Mos Eisley and hire Han Solo. One Rodian dies. Now let's take a look at what we've accomplished in the game in the same time. Luke finds Obi-Wan in a shitty cave. Obi-Wan gives Luke his father's lightsaber and then kicks him out. Luke finds Obi-Wan again, who then silently kicks him out. Luke finds some onions, but really they're shields. R2 has been captured by the Jawas. Luke murders his way to R2 and steals him back. Luke finds more onions, but they're still actually shields. Luke murders several Rodians in the cantina, rescuing Han Solo. Han murders more Rodians on the way out. So now it's clearly the logical time in the story to go and grab Obi-Wan and leave this dustball behind. Once again, dodging Tatooine's famous automated death machines, I make my way back to Obi-Wan's incel death cave one final time. I replenish the lives I've lost and dodge Obi-Wan's giant mosquito friends. With R2 in tow, Princess Leia's message is finally played and Obi-Wan asks Luke to join him, and thus I finally caught up with the events of the movie, albeit in a weird order and with more murdery stuff. I return to Mos Eisley. The path to Docking Bay 94 is littered with stormtroopers, Mandalorians, and for some reason, more of those murderous bastard Jawas. Blasting and sabering my way through them, I make good progress, replenishing my health from damage taken during my mistimed saber swings with a plentiful supply of health pickups strewn along the route. When I've almost reached the hangar, a mistimed jump makes me catch the back end of a blaster bolt, and I get launched backwards into a stormtrooper and explode. I head back to Obi-Wan's murder cave to replenish my lost life, and then return again to Mos Eisley and carve my way through to Docking Bay 94. A mistimed jump to the platform where the hangar door is reminds me that fall damage is a thing, so I have to use careful timing on my second attempt. Inside the docking bay, which is apparently spread across multiple floors and filled with several ships, stormtroopers are patrolling and there are surface-mounted lasers that fire at timed intervals. I adopt a new anti-stormtrooper strategy of spamming blaster bolts to the right side of the screen to get a head start on dealing out the damage. Alas, this tactic is only slightly effective because Luke's blaster is total crap. I take a blaster bolt to the foot and reduce Luke's health to almost nothing. Fortunately, the health of each character is tracked separately, so I swap to Han and crack on with max health. This is where I need to be careful. If Luke dies, you simply lose a life. If Han or Leia dies, they leave the party and you must go back to get them. But it isn't possible to backtrack after you've passed certain points in the game. Speaking to Obi-Wan in the event of Han or Leia's death will restore them to your party, but this ability can only be used 5 times. Thus, if Han dies after I've left Tatooine, he's gone forever, so I need to be careful with him and swap out to Luke if I think I'm going to lose a life. Grabbing health pickups replenishes the health of the selected character, so swapping to Luke when I find a health pickup will boost his health back up a chunk. I dodge a laser and accidentally grab a large health pickup as Han, wasting it because Han still has full health. Fortunately, there's a risky health pickup in the next area, so I swap to Luke and get half health back, before immediately getting launched into the air in front of a random firing stormtrooper and lose a load of it again. Battling through with Han, I reach the Falcon. More classic movie lines, but with the static 8-bit cutscenes, the delivery falls a bit flat. And so, launched into space, it's now time to fly through what remains of Alderaan. This is where the shields, come into play. Because I maxed out the shields before taking off, I can take 2 hits per segment until the shields are depleted and the asteroids destroy the Falcon. Navigating the asteroid field is simply a case of pointing the ship away from the asteroids. It's easier said than done, but the trick seems to be just keep moving. I haven't done this in a while and must tank a bunch of hits, but mercifully I escape with 2 shields left. As long as the centre of the cockpit is not pointing at any asteroids, you should be okay. After getting tractor beamed into the Death Star, this first section features wall-mounted launch pads that fire you into the air into the path of firing or patrolling enemies that can be hard to avoid. It's only going to get harder from this point onwards. The next section is the detention block. Pathing through this area requires taking a certain combination of elevators to certain floors to find a route through. Fortunately, the control room contains a map of the area that R2 can download, which is very useful. Getting there is a pain though, because the control room is full of things that want to kill me. Fortunately, reaching the computer outlet launches into a cutscene with more classic dialogue from the movie, along with expressionless character faces again. That is except 3PO, who looks like he's just trod on a piece of Lego without shoes on. When the cutscene ends, Luke has dropped back outside the room, thus avoiding going back through all of the death. Selecting R2-D2 at this point displays a simple map of the area, with the pink rectangles indicating doors of interest. In this first section, the 2 pink doors on the left indicate the entrance to the area and the control room I just ran through. So the pink door on the top right is where I need to go. The elevators are marked with green doors, and the dotted lines show the elevator shafts. The easiest way to work out a path is to work backwards from the exit door to where I am. I navigate my way through with Luke looking like he's taking a pee every time I enter an elevator door. Enemy placement is a bit of a cruel bastard in this section, with droids that pop up and attack you if you get too close, mounted turrets that you have to jump over, and fast-moving patrol droids who path from side to side. There are even a couple of automated flying droids who fire rockets every few seconds, shoved into platforming areas to make jump timing tricky. I reach the exit and hit a boss battle. And it's the tractor beam! Unlike the movie, where Obi-Wan disables it using stealth cunning and his force powers without resorting to violence of any kind, the tractor beam in this game is surrounded by randomly firing death lasers and requires a strategy of jumping between 2 dangling ladders to shoot a panel on top of it. Han's blaster does the most damage, so I use him to get the job done. Once you have the timing right, it's fairly straightforward. The trickiest part is moving between the ladders, as the movement is quite fluid, and so sometimes it's possible to miss grabbing it, and you can potentially fall into the chasm and die. I hit the panel enough times, and with the tractor beam exploding quite a lot, I am sent to the next part of the detention block. The map shows many more pink doors this time. They represent the entrance, exit, and the rest of them are detention cells. All of the cells are empty, with the exception of one that contains the princess. Unfortunately, she's always in the same cell every time you play. And I know which one it is, because I've been playing this game for 30 years. More pathing through elevators, long jumps and dodging enemies leads me to the bottom right area where the princess is locked up. Leia, as with Han, has her own unique music when you select her, and is the best character when it comes to platforming. She can easily jump further than any other character, and is much easier to control in the air. Her blaster is also different, and feels more effective than Luke's but weaker than Han's. The Death Star sections are the final platforming sections of the game, and it's Leia's time to shine now. I navigate my way to the exit to the final section, which is a cold blue platforming environment full of conveyors, wall-mounted launch pads, and huge deadly spikes. There are also plenty of indestructible droids, but the real danger here is the fall damage and the spikes. I stick to using Luke as much as I can, so that I don't deplete Leia's health, which turns out to be a wise idea. I platform into a gonk droid, who is unavoidably on a platform I'm already in mid-jump to, and he bounces me into a spike pit where I lose a life. To get past these guys you need to know what's coming up, so avoiding them the first few times you go through this area is nearly impossible. Fortunately, the droids don't deal huge damage when you touch them, so getting through with an acceptable level of damage is possible, if you can avoid being launched into the death pit. Passing these guys leads me to the trash compactor, just like in the movie.
What an incredible smell you've discovered!
Unlike the movie though, where the walls close in to crush the garbage, the room is filled with some concerning green fluid that is slowly filling the chamber, which the Dianoga is swimming left to right in, waiting for a moment to jump out and knock you off into it. Submerging in it is also lethal, so you need to stay above it and shoot the Dianoga in its eye. Luckily, a single lightsaber swing can kill it, so that's exactly what I do. The Dianoga explodes excessively, and Luke is dropped back into the final platforming section on the Death Star. I keep platforming with Luke as much as I can, but reach a point where it's just much easier to platform using Leia and her superior jumping control. Enemy placement and spikes are a pain in the arse though, so I have to use a combination of all 3 playable characters to navigate this section, saving Leia for the most difficult jumps, one of which I'm not sure is even possible without her. Finally, I reach the Falcon, and it's time to leave. It's time to man the turret and fight off some TIE fighters. Yay! This section poses a new challenge though. You have to shoot the fighters, and if they fire at you, you have to shoot their laser bolts, which move really slowly. Luckily, the Falcon's turrets are turbo firing, which is good because aiming at targets is a bit sloppy. The best strategy is to hold the reticule at a certain point and move left to right, only moving up and down when absolutely necessary. Like the asteroid field, there are 8 shield onion segments to protect you, but this time each individual laser hit taken depletes an entire segment. It's tricky, and I mess up my rhythm and get destroyed on my first attempt. I do, however, still have plenty of lives left, and I get through on my second attempt by the skin of my teeth. Landing on Yavin 4, Luke jumps in an X-Wing and launches straight back into space, where, once again, there is another turret section against TIE fighters, but this time there is also a limited directional control. Once again, I lose a life, but I get through on my second attempt with 3 shield onion segment thingies left intact. And this is it. The final battle. This last level is the infamous trench run. presented as a top-down shooter, and it's pretty tricky. TIE fighters fly at you from in front and behind as you navigate the trench. If they crash into you, it causes damage. The X-Wing itself moves quickly and burns up like it's made of tissue paper if it hits a wall. If you miss the exhaust port and don't fire your proton torpedoes at it, you'll have to loop back through the whole thing again. I have a vivid memory of looping through this sequence several times as a child before realising what I had to do and when I had to do it. In my defence, I hadn't actually seen Star Wars at that point. Kaboom! The final cutscene shows the destruction of the Death Star and the medal ceremony, with our three heroes stood on the podium. Chewie gets done dirtier in this game, and not only does he not get a medal, but he doesn't even appear in the ceremony. In fact, he's not even in the game, outside of a couple of mentions from Han. A message confirms the completion of the game. Final percent completion, 100. The end. I've lost count how many times I've completed this game over the years, but something has been bothering me. If the game tracks the completion percentage, does that mean you can complete the game with less than 100% completion? I decided to replay it and see if that's actually a thing. Because of the way that the game expects you to find other characters to join you on your quest against the Empire, I restarted the game to see how much more I could mandle the plot of the classic film. I start on Tatooine again, with C-3PO, with the standard goal of finding R2-D2 and launching through the plot. Except, this time, I don't bother going to find R2. Instead, I go straight to the shield cheesing cave to cheese those shield onions. After 8 trips through it, I head up to Obi-Wan's deadly man cave. Ben gives me the lightsaber and promptly kicks me out as before, because he's a twat. I go back in, max out my extra lives, let him kick me out some more, and set course straight for Mos Eisley, where I completely bypass the cantina and head directly to Docking Bay 94. So let's not forget, at this point, we haven't found R2. We haven't seen the full message from Leia, we haven't been tasked with joining Obi-Wan to go to Alderaan in the first place, and finally, we have never met Han Solo at this point and don't know he exists or who he is. I reach the Falcon so that Luke and 3PO can steal it and go directly to Alderaan, for some reason. As in the film, I fly through the asteroid field and get tractor beamed into the Death Star. Armed with the knowledge of exactly where I need to go and what to do, I move through the hangar section to the first elevator section, bypass the control room completely because there isn't any point in going in there without R2-D2, and head directly for the exit. It takes a bit longer, but Luke destroys the tractor beam with his pathetic blaster pistol and clairvoyantly tracks through the detention block directly to the exit, completely bypassing Leia's cell because technically he doesn't know she's there. Luke explodes the Dianoga with the lightsaber and makes it through the spiked area, having to take a different path because there is a jump that only Leia is capable of making, that Luke can fortunately bypass if you're careful and know what to do. After more blaster spamming and carefully timed platforming, Luke reaches the Falcon and escapes the Death Star once and for all. Presumably, with 3PO flying the Falcon, Luke mans a gun turret and single-handedly destroys the waves of TIE fighters. They arrive at the Rebel base on Yavin 4 by pure chance, where Luke is instantly recruited by the Rebel Alliance, given an X-Wing, and sent to assault the Death Star. Blasting through wave after wave of TIE fighters, he begins his trench run and proton torpedoes the shit out of the exhaust port, destroying the Death Star. The final ceremony is a glorious celebration as Luke stands on his podium alone. Obi-Wan is presumably still alive in his death cave on Tatooine, feeding his pet mosquitoes. Han and Chewie are stranded in Mos Eisley without a ship because it's been stolen.
Who had it? Luke. I stole it from Uncle Plot. He stole it from the Irving boys who stole it from Luke.
Who stole it from me?
Leia is almost certainly dead, having never escaped the Death Star in the first place, and R2-D2 has probably been captured and dismantled by the Empire at this point. But we've won the day without them anyway. Final percent completion, 71. Apparently their help was only worth 29% anyway. As a final point for this video, I'm going to take a quick look at the ports that followed for other systems. The Game Boy port is pretty much a handheld port of the original NES game, albeit with stiff controls and clunky movement. The platforming is not great in this one, largely due to the greatly reduced field of view. You simply cannot see what's coming up. Due to this, the long jumps are now leaps of faith, and enemies can pop from nowhere to get you. I've never finished it, and likely never will. The NES version is greatly superior, but this port does feature Chewbacca at the end. Much like the Game Boy port, the Master System port is very similar to the NES game, but the graphics have been improved quite a bit, and there is a difficulty selection to be made at the start of the game. The Cadet difficulty, from what I could tell, completely removes fall damage, makes large health pickups restore full health, and makes the asteroid field much easier to navigate and reduces the time you need to fly through it. I even managed to get through it with only one shield. Despite the improved graphics, the sound and music suffer. The controls also feel clunky and stiff, much like the Game Boy port. In fact, this port feels more like the Game Boy version because of this. This version also seems to have some performance issues when more sprites are rendered to the screen, and Luke's blaster seems to be limited to 3 blaster bolts on screen at a time, making shooting enemies harder. The lightsaber is also much less effective in this version. Luke only swings the saber around in front of him. He no longer arcs it around himself, so you can no longer attack enemies above you. Chewie also appears at the end of this one, by the way. He is also present in the Game Gear version, which is the most drastically different port of the game. It features the same difficulty options and graphics as the Master System version, but also has a whole new level based on the opening scene of the movie. Playing as Leia, you have to navigate through the Tantive V4 to reach R2 to give him the plans. All of the Tatooine landspeeder sections are gone, replaced with new levels where Luke crosses the deserts of Tatooine on foot. These levels provide a linear route to the Sandcrawler, followed by Obi-Wan's cave and then Mos Eisley. All of the other explorable caves are gone. Obi-Wan's cave has been completely redesigned, as has the detention block on the Death Star. Because it had to accommodate a small screen, the field of view is much like the Game Boy version, greatly reduced from its console counterpart, making jumping difficult. The issue of clunky, less responsive controls that plague both the Game Boy and Master System ports persists in this version, and even feels more amplified at times, making it difficult to time jumps and dodge enemies, especially when combined with the much lower field of view. For me, the definitive version of this particular game is the original NES release. None of the ports can stack up to the original version, it's not even close. It has sublime controls and stands out as an excellent game for the system in general. This is, of course, all my own opinion, and I'm sure there are many who will disagree. I'd love to hear your own opinions on any of the versions of these games, so please leave a comment if you want to. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and consider subscribing if you want to see more of this kind of thing. For now though, I bid you farewell. Thanks for watching.